Installing a subpanel requires careful consideration of several factors to ensure safety and compliance with electrical codes. This discussion focuses on the specifics of a subpanel installation in a garage, addressing conductor sizing, breaker selection, and grounding requirements. Firstly, the practice of piggybacking the subpanel feeder onto the load side of an existing service entrance disconnect is generally acceptable. This is a common method when the service entrance disconnect has adequate capacity to handle the additional load imposed by the subpanel. However, it is crucial to verify that the existing service entrance conductors are appropriately sized to accommodate the total load, including the subpanel load, to prevent overloading the system. Secondly, determining the correct conductor size for the subpanel feeder is essential for safety and code compliance. The National Electrical Code provides guidelines for conductor capacity based on the breaker size and conductor material. For a 125 amp subpanel, specific conductor sizes are recommended based on the insulation temperature rating and material. For copper conductors, a number 3 copper wire with a 90°C insulation rating or a number 4 copper wire with a 75°C insulation rating is acceptable. For aluminum conductors, a number 2 aluminum wire with a 90°C insulation rating or a number 1 aluminum wire with a 75°C insulation rating is suitable. The 125% rule is a critical consideration in electrical installations, primarily concerning continuous loads. However, this rule does not apply to branch circuit conductors supplying a panel board with a main breaker. Therefore, you can utilize a number 2 aluminum SE conductor for the subpanel feeder even with a 125 amp main breaker in the subpanel. This exemption simplifies the wiring process and can reduce costs while maintaining safety and code compliance. The selection of the main breaker for the subpanel is also an important aspect of the installation. In the scenario described, a 125 amp main breaker is chosen primarily for the number of circuits it provides, rather than the load capacity. Since the maximum anticipated load is around 70 amps, the 125 amp breaker provides ample capacity without being excessively oversized. The conductor size should be chosen based on the breaker size to ensure proper overcurrent protection. Proper grounding of the subpanel is critical for safety. This involves installing a ground rod at the subpanel location and connecting it to the system grounding electrode conductor. The grounding electrode conductor should be sized according to the National Electrical Code based on the size of the service entrance conductors. This grounding system provides a low impedance path for fault currents, helping to protect against electrical shock hazards and equipment damage. In summary, for a subpanel installation with a 125 amp main breaker and a 70 amp load, a number 2 aluminum SE conductor is acceptable. Ensure that the existing service entrance conductors are adequately sized to accommodate the additional load of the subpanel. Install a ground rod at the subpanel and connect it to the system grounding electrode conductor. Always comply with all applicable local codes and regulations to ensure safe and compliant installation. Additional considerations include the type of loads that will be connected to the subpanel. If the subpanel will supply motor loads, such as an air compressor or welder, additional considerations may be necessary. Motor circuits often require larger conductors and overcurrent protection devices to accommodate the motor's inrush current during startup. Consult the National Electrical Code for specific requirements related to motor circuits. Furthermore, ensure that all wiring connections are made securely and properly insulated. Use appropriate connectors and terminals for the conductor size and type. Loose or poorly insulated connections can lead to overheating, arcing, and potential fire hazards. Double-check all connections to ensure they are tight and secure. When working with electrical systems, always prioritize safety. Turn off the power to the circuit before working on any wiring. Use appropriate personal protective equipment, such as insulated gloves and safety glasses. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, consult a qualified electrician. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary precautions to protect yourself and others. Consider the environmental conditions in the garage. If the garage is subject to moisture or dampness, Use appropriate wiring methods and enclosures to protect against corrosion. Use weatherproof or waterproof boxes and fittings in damp or wet locations. This will help to ensure the longevity and reliability of the electrical system. Plan the layout of the subpanel and circuits carefully. Consider the location of outlets, lights, and equipment. Ensure that the wiring is installed in a neat and organized manner. Use cable ties or straps to secure the wiring and prevent it from sagging or becoming damaged. A well-organized electrical system is easier to maintain and troubleshoot. Label all circuits clearly. Use a circuit directory to identify the purpose of each breaker. This will make it easier to identify and troubleshoot problems in the future. A clear and accurate circuit directory is an essential part of any electrical installation. When selecting electrical equipment, such as outlets, switches, and lights, choose high-quality products that are rated for the intended use. Look for products that are listed by a recognized testing laboratory, such as Underwriters Laboratories UL. This will help to ensure that the products meet safety standards and are suitable for the application. Consider the energy efficiency of the electrical system. Use energy-efficient lighting, such as LED bulbs. Install occupancy sensors to automatically turn off lights when a room is unoccupied. Use timers to control the operation of equipment, such as air compressors and welders. Energy-efficient electrical systems can save money on electricity bills and reduce environmental impact. Finally, always obtain the necessary permits and inspections for electrical work. Contact your local building department to determine the requirements for electrical permits and inspections. This will help to ensure that the electrical work is done safely and in compliance with local codes and regulations. Permits and inspections are an important part of the electrical installation process. In conclusion, installing a subpanel requires careful planning, attention to detail, and compliance with electrical codes. By following these guidelines, you can ensure a safe and reliable electrical system in your garage. Remember to prioritize safety, use high-quality materials, and consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns. The information provided is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer for specific recommendations and guidance related to your particular situation. Electrical codes and regulations vary depending on location, so it is essential to comply with all applicable local requirements. Installing a subpanel can be a complex and challenging task, but with careful planning and execution, it can be done safely and effectively. Take your time, follow the instructions, and don't hesitate to seek professional help if needed. A well-installed subpanel can provide years of reliable service and enhance the functionality of your garage. Always remember to disconnect the power supply before starting any electrical work and to test the circuits after the installation to ensure that they are working properly. Proper testing and verification are essential to ensure the safety and reliability of the electrical system. If you encounter any problems or difficulties during the installation, stop and seek professional help. It is always better to be safe than sorry when working with electricity. Electrical hazards can be deadly, so it is important to take all necessary precautions to protect yourself and others. By following these guidelines and taking the necessary precautions, you can safely and effectively install a subpanel in your garage. A well-installed subpanel can provide years of reliable service and enhance the functionality of your garage. Remember to prioritize safety, use high-quality materials, and consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns. It is also worth noting that the size of the subpanel and the number of circuits it provides should be determined based on the anticipated future needs of the garage. It is often wise to install a slightly larger subpanel than is currently required to accommodate future expansion or changes in equipment. This can save time and money in the long run by avoiding the need to upgrade the subpanel later. When selecting a subpanel, consider the available space in the garage and the ease of access to the panel. Choose a location that is convenient and accessible for maintenance and troubleshooting. The subpanel should be mounted securely to a wall or other support structure to prevent it from being damaged or dislodged. Ensure that the subpanel is properly labeled with all relevant information such as the voltage, amperage, and circuit designations. This will make it easier to identify and troubleshoot problems in the future. A well-labeled subpanel is an essential part of any electrical installation. In addition to the grounding electrode conductor, it is also important to install a proper equipment grounding conductor in each circuit. The equipment grounding conductor provides a low impedance path for fault currents and helps to protect against electrical shock hazards. The equipment grounding conductor should be sized according to the National Electrical Code based on the size of the circuit conductors. When installing the equipment grounding conductor, ensure that it is properly connected to the metal enclosures of all electrical equipment, such as outlets, switches, and lights. This will help to ensure that the equipment is properly grounded and protected against electrical shock hazards. It is also important to inspect the electrical system regularly for any signs of damage or deterioration. Look for cracked or damaged wiring, loose connections, and corroded terminals. If you find any problems, repair them promptly to prevent them from becoming more serious. Regular maintenance and inspection are essential to ensure the safety and reliability of the electrical system. Finally, it is always a good idea to keep a record of all electrical work that is done in the garage. This record should include the date of the work, a description of the work, and the name of the person who performed the work. This record can be helpful for future maintenance and troubleshooting. By following these additional tips and guidelines, you can further enhance the safety and reliability of the electrical system in your garage. Remember to prioritize safety, use high-quality materials, and consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns. The information provided is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer for specific recommendations and guidance related to your particular situation. The electrical codes and regulations vary depending on location, so it is essential to comply with all applicable local requirements. Remember that even with careful planning and execution, electrical work can still be dangerous. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician to do the work for you. Your safety and the safety of others should always be the top priority. Before starting any electrical work, take the time to educate yourself about electrical safety and the proper procedures for working with electricity. There are many resources available online and in libraries that can provide you with the information you need to stay safe. By taking the time to learn about electrical safety, you can reduce the risk of accidents and injuries. Remember, electricity is a powerful force that should be treated with respect. Always take the necessary precautions to protect yourself and others from electrical hazards. With careful planning and execution, you can safely and effectively install a subpanel in your garage and enjoy the benefits of a well-equipped and functional workspace. The installation of a subpanel is a significant electrical undertaking, and it is imperative to approach it with utmost care and diligence. The potential consequences of improper installation can be severe, ranging from minor inconveniences to serious hazards such as electrical fires or electrocution. Therefore, it is strongly recommended to consult with a licensed electrician before commencing any work on the subpanel installation. A qualified electrician possesses the necessary expertise and experience to assess the existing electrical system, determine the appropriate subpanel size and configuration, and ensure that the installation complies with all applicable codes and regulations. Their guidance can help to prevent costly mistakes, ensure the safety of the electrical system, and provide peace of mind knowing that the work has been performed correctly. In addition to consulting with an electrician, it is also essential to obtain all necessary permits and inspections from the local building department. These permits and inspections are designed to ensure that the electrical work meets the required safety standards and that the installation is compliant with all applicable codes. Obtaining the necessary permits and inspections can help to protect your property and ensure the safety of your family and neighbors. The process of installing a subpanel involves several critical steps, each of which requires careful attention to detail. These steps include selecting the appropriate location for the subpanel, installing the necessary wiring and conduit, connecting the subpanel to the main electrical panel, and testing the system to ensure that it is functioning correctly. Each of these steps must be performed in accordance with the applicable codes and regulations, and it is important to use high-quality materials and tools to ensure a safe and reliable installation. During the installation process, it is crucial to prioritize safety above all else. Always disconnect the power to the main electrical panel before working on any electrical components, and use appropriate personal protective equipment, such as insulated gloves and safety glasses. It is also important to work in a well-lit and dry environment and to avoid working alone. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician to do the work for you. Once the subpanel installation is complete, it is essential to test the system to ensure that it is functioning correctly. This testing should include verifying that the voltage and amperage are within the acceptable range, that the wiring is properly connected, and that the grounding system is functioning correctly. Any problems that are identified during the testing process should be corrected immediately to prevent potential hazards. After the subpanel installation has been completed and tested, it is important to maintain the system properly. This maintenance should include regularly inspecting the wiring and components for any signs of damage or deterioration, tightening any loose connections, and cleaning the subpanel to remove any dust or debris. Proper maintenance can help to extend the life of the subpanel and ensure that it continues to function safely and reliably. In conclusion, the installation of a subpanel is a complex electrical undertaking that requires careful planning, attention to detail, and compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. It is strongly recommended to consult with a licensed electrician before commencing any work in the subpanel installation, and to obtain all necessary permits and inspections from the local building department. By following these guidelines and prioritizing safety above all else, you can ensure that the subpanel is installed correctly and that it provides years of reliable service.